these are the best there are, in my opinion, running programs in our country. And I'm so thrilled to have every one of you here. So I was hoping that we could just start out by you guys introducing yourselves, and I'll call out, in order, but just tell us how you also got started and what drove you to be in this space within your companies. So we'll start with Lauren from Ubisoft.
Hi. So yeah, my name's Lauren. I'm a project manager of community at Ubisoft, as well as the neurodiversity ERG lead for North America. I got started within the program because I myself am autistic and was looking for resources in my company and found our wonderful ERG and joined in to help with our talent program.
Thank you so much. We'll go to Danny.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Daniela Aivazian. I'm the Director of Organizational Effectiveness and the lead for Ideal IT, which are DEIB programs within Stanford University Central IT Group, University IT. I'm a white woman with reddish brown hair. I'm wearing all black. I usually wear all black. And my pronouns are she and her. How I got involved. Oh, that was the other question you asked. I got involved because I lead the DEIB programs and they work as a system with our talent program. So it is within my portfolio of responsibility and it is what I'm passionate about. Yeah, I'll talk more about the program as we get on further into the questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Danny. And Jamell?
Thank you, Rebecca. So hello, everyone. My name is Jamell Mitchell. I'm with EY. I am the global neurodiversity leader that helps to drive our ecosystems. My pronouns are he and him. Today, I'm wearing a light blue striped shirt with some specks that are black rimmed. I am an African-American male who I often say is hair follically challenged. So that's one of my claim to fame. But how I got started, interestingly enough, this was a question that was posed to me literally almost a decade ago that went something like this. What do you think about hiring individuals on the autism spectrum? And at the time, I said, I don't know that much about it, but I'll make anything work. And boy, did I jump in with both feet and with both eyes open to really help to create environments that are really inclusive for everyone. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on, but super excited to be able to be here and to share with you all today. And I identify as a neurotypical male.
Thank you so much, Jamell. And Stephen?
Thank you, Rebecca, and good day all. My name is Stephen DeStefani. I'm the Wells Fargo Global Program Executive for the Neurodiversity Program. I also sit on the National Board of Directors for the Autism Society of America, and I am a veteran with service-connected disabilities. I'm also a white male, about 6'2", or once was, salt and pepper hair, wearing a white shirt and a gray and black check sport coat. As far as how I got started, I joined Wells Fargo just over 4 years ago from JP Morgan to take on a position of transformational leadership in the technology people agenda, or the workforce transformation. So we focused on building DE&I governance, diverse talent pipelines, the technology training or skills development platform, as well as start the neurodiversity program.
Thank you so much. And I just realized I didn't introduce myself. I just assumed you all knew who I was. I am Rebecca Beam. I am the founder and CEO of Zavicon. I am a woman in my 50s with silver hair. I'm wearing a white blazer and glasses. And I am thrilled to be here. And I'll answer the question too. The way I got started was in 2013, I got tapped on the shoulder by a great person to become one of the first advisory board members of a little company called MindSpark. And together we built that company. MindSpark trained adults on the autism spectrum to do software testing. We grew it, we built it, we sold it in 2018 to a German-based organization who employs technologists on the spectrum. I became their CEO for about 3 years, and it was during that journey that I knew I had to start Zavicon for a number of reasons. I'm extremely passionate about this space, and I am neurodivergent, and I am thrilled to have all of you here. So the purpose of this panel today is to share best practices, to share the stories of success, and to give you ideas, if you're interested in building your own programs, of how to do that. You know, at Zavicon, we help the pathway to employment for individuals who are neurodivergent. We also help companies build these programs, and we consult with companies on how to do it, and we believe it starts with education. But all of these individuals have been very involved in their companies to either start the programs or build the programs, and they've all come at it in different ways. And so I think their stories are going to be very impactful as you start to delve into building these programs yourself. So leading into our first question, you know, it's a multi-tiered question, and I can go one at a time, but I'll just tell you where we're going with it. When did you start your program? So this is the when, the why, the how, and the now, because I want to know when and what was the reason for starting a program at your company? How did the program get started? What was your approach? And where are you now in your journey? And I'll help you guide you through those questions one at a time. But I thought we'd start with Stephen to find out what the journey was for Wells Fargo.
Sure. Thank you, Rebecca. So the journey started, as I mentioned, shortly after I started with the firm. So it's 4 years ago. Our mission was clear in that we intended and set out to create meaningful employment opportunities to support the neurodivergent community, a community incredibly rich in talent, deep in numbers, right, and rich in diverse. And the primary reason for that was a business imperative, right? I'll say it a number of times that you should never need a business case to do the right thing, but there's a compelling business case, right? And it starts with the access to incredible talent that, based on their differences, right? The neurodiversity, as we define it, is the naturally occurring variation in the way people think, learn, communicate, and behave. And it's those barriers, those differences that create barriers throughout the employment cycle, but where it leaves the deepest cuts and the greatest marks are at the interview. And we've adopted a process in partnership early on with our friends at EY to build a skills-based, strengths-leaning model that to date is responsible for hiring nearly 300 full-time employees into strategic roles. And as of just last week, 21 interns into both technology and operations-based roles.
Incredible. That's impact. That's amazing. And from what I understand, just to bounce off that, you're expanding this. It's not just in technology, it's throughout the different divisions of Wells Fargo.
Yeah, that's correct, Rebecca. So we were incubated in a small group in technology. We're in 7 of our primary lines of business at this point. In fact, all 7 of those businesses were responsible to the 130 hires we made through the program last year. And I will say that we talk about the program and how to build a program and the effectiveness of a program. Our goal has been from day one is to eliminate the need for a program. Right, we're gonna run it in the construct today, and not as a backdoor or some secret access. It's an alternate, more accessible front door to critical strategic roles here at the firm. And the work that we're doing is really helping influence and educate and guide accessibility of practices across the firm.
Amazing. And I love that you collaborated with EY to help stand up some of your best practices. So I'm going to move over to Jamell with that, with the same line of questioning, the when, why, how, and now. So when did you get started? Why did you get started? What did you do to get started? And where are you now?
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca, and shout out to Stephen for the great work that they continue to do with Wells Fargo. And I remember when Stephen and I first met, and we were really trying to come together on ensuring that that the program initially was set up for success. So let's talk about the win. This goes back to about 2015 when we first started down this journey of true neuro inclusion, and the why really came from a request from senior leadership that had attended a session at the UN where there was lots of discussion around hiring individuals on the autism spectrum, specifically those with a technology background for some of those needs. They literally came back to my senior leader, the global founder, Ernst Young, to say, hey, would you be interested in helping to stand up a process that enables success for, again, individuals that were on the autism spectrum? And he was really charged with bringing purpose and passion together and utilizing technology in some really innovative ways. So he basically raised his hand and said, sign me up. I quickly came on after, literally weeks, and took the ball by the chain, as they say, and continued to run with how can we make this process that really creates opportunity for those that are neurodivergent. Looking at our overall focus was really around neurodiversity and what did that mean to EY as an organization? How do we create an additional entry point into the firm for where we have and we had some skill gaps? Stephen's point was spot on in the sense that, the fact that we have programs is what we have to do now, but the goal is ultimately not to have a program. The goal is to make sure that all of our practices are inclusive, literally from beginning to end. And so we focus on what does a skill-based process looks like as opposed to behavior-based process, which we understand that some neurodivergent individuals have challenges on and or around. So how do we create an experience that ultimately allows them to bring their best self to that experience? When we first started, we had a company by the name of Specialist Sterna who had given us some information and a blueprint around what this could look like and having access to talent. We then took some of those pieces and modeled a process that has now enabled not just success for EY with over 500 individuals that have been hired specifically through this hiring activity for our centers in 23 different locations within 10 countries globally. But we also are working with our clients, such as Wells Fargo, such as SLB, such as Petronas, and helping them to stand up similar types of models, not just within the Americas, but globally. And our goal is to really make sure that we're continuing to amplify some of the recognition that EY has received, whether it be for the World Economic Forum or an award that we just received literally last week from the folks at the I&D Impact Award around inclusion, about how do you create enough of a spotlight so that other organizations want to model some of this process to create additional opportunities for those that are neurodivergent.
I love that. And I love that you both spoke about one day not having to have a program to do this. It's just a natural way of hiring, and that companies will just do it and do it right because all of the things that we implement in these programs are good for every single person in your company. So now I'm going to ask Lauren the same questions: the when, why, how, and now.
Absolutely. So our neurodiversity ERG specifically started a couple of years ago, and our neurodiversity talent program started about a year and a half ago. We have lots of ERGs within Ubisoft. We're an extremely diverse company around the world. So we have ERGs ranging from Pride to, Muslim individuals, the Black community, everything. So it was kind of a natural decision to also have a neurodiverse ERG, as gaming in general as a career tends to attract neurodiverse individuals since it is a creative career. And so now in our journey, we have just launched our career page on our website to essentially speak directly to neurodiverse individuals that may be wanting to work with us and might be curious as to how they could be supported within our company. So then that way people, when they apply for a job, can feel confident that they are applying to somewhere that will take care of them and support them.
That's fantastic. And are you tracking within the organization how many neurodiverse individuals there are?
So while not everyone is self-reporting, many individuals also do not know that they're neurodiverse. So we're working on education within the company. We currently have 545 members, I believe, and are working on educating individuals that maybe don't know yet, or they're just curious about why they relate to some of our neurodiverse characters in our video games, so that we can also leave our door open for people to receive that assistance that maybe are unaware that that's why they need assistance.
That's fantastic. And Jamell, I should have congratulated you on that big award. That's amazing. Congratulations to EY on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Danny, so Zavicon is very involved with Stanford University and their programs, but Danny, please take it away.
Thanks, Rebecca. So I'm actually going to talk about a program that's on a different scale. Stanford is a university, which some of you may know is based in Palo Alto, so around near the larger San Francisco Bay Area, in the heart of Silicon Valley. And actually, that's an important detail, because when we started our program, being in Silicon Valley was part of the reason why we did it. So we started the Neurodiversity in IT program in 2018, knowing that there was a rich talent pool that we were not tapping, and that we couldn't pay as much as Meta, Google down the street. So we needed to do something to lure people to work for Stanford University. Research universities, we can pay pretty well, but not the same scale, obviously. So that was one of the things that led to our starting our program. The other thing that led to our starting our program was a brand new leader. We had a new CIO, new Chief Information Officer, join Stanford. We stole him from Harvard, as one does. You know, you always steal leaders from Harvard. We stole him from Harvard so that, and one of the things he did as soon as he walked in the door was he said, unambiguously, a diverse organization is a better place to work. So proposing a suite, a system of DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging focused programs was something that he was going to sign off on immediately, and he did. One of the programs was the Neurodiversity in IT program. It has a dual focus. Still to this day, it has both a recruiting talent program focused and also an education and awareness building focus. And we've had success with both, but the numbers are going to be different from my global peers on the panel. So we've had about 10 hires through our talent program in the years that we've been running our program, but we have educated almost 3,000 people across Stanford to create the environment, the organization that is welcoming of folks, whether they identify as neurodivergent or whether they just want to know more about it. And the two things hand in hand have been really critical success factors for us. One of the things that I should say before I hand back the token to Rebecca is that I'm really excited that we're talking on this panel about goals of not having a need for a program. One of the things that I'm going to talk about a little bit more is that our program is part of a system of programs. So there's a lot of cross collaborative benefits that we have found really beneficial too. So there can be a reason to have programs. I guess that's my point, and they can be valuable as well. So with that, I will hand back to you, Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. And neurodiversity crosses over all demographics. So to have these programs with a real DEI slant and bringing all of DEI in, it just makes sense. these journeys can be interesting, right? It's like you're doing something new, and, a lot has evolved in this space since I started in 2013. A lot has happened. So, and you've all been doing it for a while. So I'd like to talk about lessons learned to date. And those could be some of the pitfalls that you landed in. And I think, one of the things that I value so much about this panel is that we share those lessons learned with each other. We're very willing to share with one another so that we can help organizations not go down the same path and make the same mistakes. So that's why I value you so much. So starting with Jamell, what has been your biggest lessons learned to date?
So Rebecca, I know that we have to keep this to task because we don't have much time, but there's lots of lessons learned that I have that I could share. But I'll if I can, I'll share maybe one and a half, right? So the first half one, I would say, for anyone that's listening, either in the room or virtually, it's important to give yourself some grace. And I say that because you are going to make mistakes. We are dealing with people, and even though you can connect with 1,000 neurodivergent individuals or 2,000 or even 5,000 neurodivergent individuals, you still have to be able to respect individuals for their preferences and their likes. And sometimes as neurotypicals, we get it wrong, but sometimes neurodivergent people get it wrong. So I think that's a half lesson that I wanted to make sure that I kind of just bring to the top of the discussion. But more importantly, I think it's really pivotal that we continue to involve the actual team, the individuals that you are trying to have the most impact for. Clearly, we're talking about neurodivergent individuals, and so I think that neurodivergent individuals need to become and remain a part of any process that we have, which will ultimately provide them with support and or enablers or what their success looks like. If you do not involve the demographic of those who you are trying to assist, I think that is a recipe for failure.
Think about us without us. I love that. Thank you, Jamell. I'm going to go to Lauren with the same questions. Biggest lessons learned to date?
I'll say for mine, in researching everything and getting more in depth, the biggest lesson for me was that autistic people actually have a rate of 80% unemployment. And I like to say that's not because they're autistic. It is due to lack of accessibility and lack of understanding, because often, we can provide all the resources we want and we can provide all the support from the top down. But if we don't do the work with our non-neurodivergent employees to create an environment that supports them and an environment that appreciates their differences, then we're not fully contributing to reducing that unemployment number.
I love that. That is such a great point. Danny, lessons learned.
Thank you. I've got 3, or maybe I'll do 2.5, the way Jamell did. So my first one is cultural change is a long game, and changing your recruiting practices, thinking about your talent programs so that they are truly more inclusive is part of the long game. And thinking about the environment into which you're hiring is just as important as supporting the people you're hiring and engaging them in the processes of hiring. That's 1. 2, invest in a great leader for your program. I am sitting on a panel with great leaders of programs, and I am actually representing the folks who are actually leading the neurodiversity and IT program at Stanford. Ann Pinkowski, who wishes she was here, she brings her passion to it every single day. And one of our big learnings is that we surround the people we hire, that we bring into our program, we surround them with support, which includes mentoring, buddies, job coaches. And that a big part of that is having our leaders there leading the way. So that's 2. And I guess the half is never to forget that this is an investment in people. and always remembering that it's the people at the heart that make the programs work. And that is one of the critical success lessons learned for sure.
Fantastic. And I agree with you on Anne. She wanted to be here today, but she wasn't able to join us. But really fantastic program. And one of the things that I really love about the Stanford program is they not only assign a buddy to the person, but they also assign a mentor. So somebody within the org that the person's working in, and then someone outside of the org that the person is can just reach out to go to lunch or ask questions about how to get around campus or what have you. So I really love that element of the program. And Stephen, lessons learned. This is a loaded question, I know.
Yeah, so lessons learned. I'm not going to be as gracious as Jamell was, because I think we've got. I'm gonna take his time that he yielded and talk about some of our lessons learned. So one, this is so much more than a hiring program or an activity, right? That's a price of admission. What's more important, or the majority of what's critical, is how we support not only those individuals that we hire through more accessible means, but how we support the 1 in 5 neurodivergent individuals that are in our organizations already, right? How do we provide those supports? How do we create the messaging and inspire folks beyond advocacy and on to activism? 2 is the importance of education. I'm going to echo a lot of the points that were made. Absolute importance of education. I will, from my perspective, again, speaking from Stephen DeStefani's perspective, I say that unconscious bias is an excuse for bad behavior. Instead, think about it as uneducated bias, right? We behave poorly because we don't know better, and it underscores the importance of education and drives home the accountability for individuals to learn more and do better. It underscores the importance of our strategic partnership with folks like Judy Riley and the University of Connecticut, where Wells Fargo just launched what I believe to be the most comprehensive, most highly scaled neuro-inclusive education that exists outside of academia. A workforce of 260,000 have access to consistent set of asynchronous neuro-inclusive education that's combined with targeted in-person instructor-led training to our HR support professionals, as well as a broader speaker series for all to participate. The cultural competency that is elevated as a result of that education raises all of the boats, right? It teaches given the extensibility of many of our considerations and practices, when we create accessible, considerate processes, policies, practices, it doesn't just benefit the neurodivergent folks. All folks, regardless of their how they identify, will benefit from those practices. Next to finally, I'll say self-sufficiency, right? You've got to be able to scale, right? Creating dependencies on resources that you don't fully control will, as in the long run, will be a tough lesson to learn, right? Incorporate your learnings into the DNA of the organization and build that scalability and sustainability organically.
I love that. First of all, one of the things that I loved in what you said was make it an inclusive for everybody. You have neurodivergent workers that are in your environments already that are afraid to come forward and disclose. Making it a safe space for those individuals who already work with your organizations to come forward and disclose is one of the first steps. And I agree with you, education. I think, honestly, neurodiversity training and education is as important as sexual harassment training, and it should be included in every company's training, mandatory trainings. And I love that you guys are making that accessible to all your staff, to everyone in your company. That's amazing. So Jamell, I'm going to ask you about effective practices that you've seen work with your neurodiverse applicants, the attraction of the talent, the interview. what are some of those elements that you guys have implemented that have been super successful for EY?
I love this question, Rebecca, and I'm going to go back to something that I shared in the beginning. Partly is we understand that some individuals that identify as neurodivergent may have challenges with the, I would say, standard behavioral-based interview process. So what we've done is we've ultimately shifted that process from it being behavioral-based to ensuring that it is performance-based, and it's performance-based really aligned to the specific roles that we are hiring for. It is basically an evolution that we have seen over time, wherein we've received the very specific feedback and input from some of our neurodivergent seniors, from some of our neurodivergent managers who are part of our leadership team at this point, who are really helping to inform and really craft and create experiences for their colleagues who also, again, identify as neurodivergent. It's being able to not rest on laurels and be able to understand that even good processes can be reiterated, and we continue to do that over and over again so that the individuals who are going through these different processes from a recruiting perspective has the best experience so that they feel most comfortable bringing themselves to the process, and not just bringing themselves to the process, being able to showcase what they are actually able to do. Another thing that we've actually found extremely effective, and this is something that's being built from the initial conversations and discussions with some of our applicants, is really being able to share with them best practices around how do they self-advocate, how do they ensure that they can ask for what they need, whether they decide to disclose or not. We also want to make sure that they have whatever the supports, the enablers that we have available to us to make sure that they are available so that that person, that individual brings their best self to that interview. Now, there are many specifics around the intricacies of the process and how detailed and bespoke it is, but I think the bigger pieces that I think kind of encapsulates what I'm sharing is the fact that we don't rest on what worked in the past. We understand that there has to be change and that they were open for it. So anyone that's out there that's listening, as great as that process is that you have, there is opportunity to enhance and update it. So make sure that you are driving more people in and you are screening them in and not out of a process based upon things that have been done in the past, which for many are antiquated.
Absolutely. I love that. And I would imagine that to, adhere to those processes, there's a tremendous amount of training that you go through with your interviewers to teach them how to interview effectively.
Absolutely. And that interview process, Rebecca, has worked clearly with our neurodivergent managers, meaning those who identify as neurodivergent and who are part of our leadership team. But clearly it goes to our individuals who are also identifying as neurotypical, who are really skilled in what this process is. How do they work best with individuals that identify as neurodivergent? And one of the key things I love about even what our trainings basically have kind of been crafted to be at this point is this collaboration of both neurodivergent and neurotypical people working together so that they're focusing on what are best practices for managers and or for leaders, and not just keeping it amongst, I would say, a bespoke group, but pushing this out across the 400,000 plus individuals within EY. So this is something that our actual campus recruiters and our experienced recruiters also go through so that they are as informed if a person decides to disclose or not. How do they now customize what that talk track looks like? So again, that they're screening more people in. How are they taking the necessary pauses? How are they making sure that they are not making judgment calls based upon a lack of response or too long of a response? And in situations where you have the ability to connect with someone, am I focusing on the fact that a person is not looking at me directly, or if the person appears to be somewhat distracted? Or am I negating those visual things and focusing on what is being shared by that individual in that time, in that moment? And again, not jumping to assumptions.
Love that. So you're setting them up for success from the very beginning in the interview. And at Zavicon, we feel that that's extremely important. That we call it success factors. We call it success factors from a perspective of setting them up for success in the interview and also setting them up for success in the workplace. And we do it through the I work best when. We ask people to question, how do you work best? And share those, but we also share about the individuals that we're placing. And with that, Lauren, I'm going to ask you, there's so many diagnoses that fall under neurodiversity, autism, obviously being one of them. But what are the common supports, those success factors that Ubisoft has put in place to support the diverse needs of your teams?
So I think for us, it's a two-prong approach, one being the ERG, which is an employee resource group for those that don't have ERGs at their company. And what this is it's kind of like a club in your company where employees can get together and they can talk about accommodations, talk about personal struggles, just a way to have other people to relate to, but also as a way to discuss what kind of accommodations are needed. So, if a lot of people suffering with anxiety realize that they all would like the same accommodation, they can help each other feel more confident to approach management to discuss that because they are seeing a commonality. But the other prong of that is that we are also developing resources and training for our management and HR to help them better understand neurodiverse employees because of that point that I mentioned earlier, that often a lot of the unemployment rates for autism are due to a lack of understanding. And I think that goes with a lot of neurodiversity is a lot of people want to know how to help, but they don't understand how. And there may be traits that are just conflicts of working. Myself being autistic, I ask a ton of questions. And sometimes that can be seen as an insult, but if a manager has been trained in your autistic employees might need to ask you more questions, they might need more clarification, then that creates a better working environment for everyone. So we have the ERG to help the autistic individual to explain to their manager, hey, if I question you, I'm not being insulting, I just need clarification. And we have the manager to understand that they need clarification while also making sure that everyone is aware that those needs are going to differ even within the same diagnosis. I don't need the same accommodations as the next employee with autism. And so making sure that people understand that there are commonalities that they can expect, but remembering that everyone is individual and to keep that open mind when it comes to the ways of working to approach with benefit of a doubt instead of our personal biases or ego.
Thank you. That's incredible. And I do love the individualized approach because everybody is individual and one size does not fit all. And so you really have to look at the person and the human in front of you and find out what they need to be set up for success. So, Stephen, this is a question that I'm really excited to hear you answer. I would like to know how the neurodiversity hiring has impacted your leadership and has impacted the organization as a whole.
Sure. So I'm gonna go thin and wide because I could spend a whole bunch of time talking about the impacts because they're substantial. I think first our efforts have created a bar for manager performance. So within our program, we select our managers based on fitness, right? They got to be great people managers. They have to have above average emotional intelligence. They've got to have a capacity for deep empathy. That's the price of admission. We layer on education and immersion and training. And what we have seen, and we've heard this not only from those leaders, but from the individuals within those leaders' organizations, that individual becomes a better leader. They become a better manager, not only for their neurodivergent staff, but their entire team. So respecting differences in communication, in whether an individual wants to communicate more verbally, they want to communicate in small message, they want to be on camera or off camera, right? They become more considerate and accessible, again, not only to that neurodivergent employee, but to others. We've also seen the broader energizing of the culture, right? Folks that have come forth with continual proclamations of pride of being in a workplace that supports the community in the way they do. Hope that something like this, right, these opportunities would be available for their children or their family members when they became of employment age. Right? The outpouring of volunteership. I want to be a manager. How do I help the program? How do I get involved? We also, we have endless storytelling of individuals and their association with their family members or their relations. And then finally, that courageous moment where individuals are influenced by the work that we're doing, and they begin to feel the sense of psychological safety and trust driven by our efforts, by our education, by our outcomes, and they develop the courage to say, yeah, me too, right? I have support needs. I'm a member of this community, and there's a couple things you could do, manager, leader, organization, to help me be more successful. In fact, one of those examples was featured in the Wells Fargo 2022 year-end DE&I report, where an individual not hired through the program, inspired and influenced, energized, felt that sense of safety and trust, and shared her needs, and it turned her personal and her professional life around 180 degrees. So the cultural, the consistency, or I would say the exponential impacts of the efforts you see echo throughout processes, people, policies, and we work to continually do better.
Amazing. And we all know it hits the bottom line. We all know the research has been done. Employee turnover can be a killer. When you build these programs, you're building loyalty.
Yep. I'm sorry, Rebecca. I was just going to that point, right? I'm incredibly proud of 97% retention over the life of the program, right? We've got folks that were unable to be successful in employment for more than 3 or 4 months. They're approaching their 3.5 or their 4-year anniversary.
That is amazing. And career progression, career growth, promotion. It's all there. It's amazing. I love it. Thank you. And Danny, so, what are some of the ways that Stanford has incorporated neurodiversity into your DE&I efforts from an overall strategy? Because I know for you personally, you are hitting all areas. So just tell us a little bit about that.
I'm happy to. Thank you for the question. So I think I started at the very beginning talking about how our neurodiversity in IT program is part of a system of programs that we call Ideal IT. And Stanford loves acronyms. We love acronyms so much I cannot even tell you. We have an acronym dictionary that's called SAD, unfortunately. Stanford Acronym Dictionary. It's a very bad acronym for the acronym dictionary. It's one of the ironies. But IDEAL stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access in the Learning Environment. And IDEAL is what the university's strategy for DEIB is. Ideal IT is ideal for the IT community at Stanford. And the way we describe it, it's 6 programs currently. There are 2 recruiting focused programs. Neurodiversity and IT is one of them. The other is a Year Up internship program. Year Up is a national organization that we partner with. They work with young adults from underrepresented, traditionally marginalized backgrounds. And so we're trying to diversify early career roles a lot of the time with those internship programs, but it goes broader. We have 2 ERG-like affinity groups, one for women in technology, one for people of color in technology. We have 2 programs that cut across all 6. One is our accessibility program, Accessible IT, and the other is a program that has learning components. We have an allyship learning program. We have an I Am Remarkable program that's focused on self-promotion. So we really are looking at all of the pieces of our system as things that work together, that are interrelated, that share best practices and cross-pollinate. And I think that's one of the reasons why our overall strategy is working. One of the things that maybe I'll highlight, it's the tagline for our neurodiversity and IT program, but it's important to think about it across all of our ideal IT programs, and that is inclusion for abilities and acceptance for differences. And I think that's true of everything that we're saying on this panel today. So I wanted to amplify that point because it's an important part of our DNA.
I really love that. That's amazing. It looks like you have a visitor there with you. I love that too. So guys, we have until 3:35, right? So we have about 5 minutes left. This is going to be rapid fire here, and this is a big question. So if you were to give one golden nugget piece of advice to the people in this room and the employers listening, what would it be? Danny, you're first.
Practical and pragmatic, not performative.
Love it. Nailed it. Stephen, you're next.
Divest from the typical. Right? Don't allow what you did yesterday to define what you do tomorrow, and embrace disruption. Respectful but impactful disruption to drive organizational and cultural change.
Love that. Can I steal that one? I think I'll use that. I've stolen some of Jamell's statements out there. Lauren.
I'll try and say this as fast as I can. I am living proof that a neurodiverse program aids in employee improvement. Ubisoft is the first company I've worked with that has support for neurodiverse individuals, and this is also the most successful I have ever been with a company. So it truly, when you invest in your people, they can soar more than they ever have.
Fantastic. And I'm going to leave it with Jamell, that one golden nugget.
One golden nugget I would say is create opportunities where both passion and profit create intersection.
Whoa, I love that. So thank you, but I think we have how many more minutes? Does anybody have a question? Yes, we have a question over here. Hold on, let's get a microphone.
So I listened to quite a few of you, and I'm glad to hear that more and more companies are really putting investment in the neurodiversity improvement. But if I'm somebody who wants to enter the job market, how do I know the company that I am competing with a non-divergent person for the same job? Do I identify because I may not get the job? Or do I do my research and call up HR and say, do you guys have a neurodiversity program? So then I can get in because I may be able to enroll in that program in my interview.
I love that question. I'll answer just from a Zavacon's perspective. Disclosure can be tough, can be one of the hardest things. Do your research. And now I'm going to throw it over to Jamell. You have something to say?
Yeah, definitely here. One, I love the question. And to your point, Rebecca, to the person who asked the question, self-disclosure, it can be tough. It is an individual decision, but I would say absolutely positively do the research on the company in which you are interested in, because whether or not they have a program or not, you want to make sure that that organization is going to be embracing you as an individual, as a professional. So I think a couple of things that you really could do, which doesn't focus on program, find out what supports do they have that will enable success during an interview process. And I think that in itself would give you some really, really good idea as to if that's an organization that you want to be a part of.
And I'll jump in here as well as a company that has our neurodiversity talent program very publicly on our careers page. If you see that within a company, personally, sort of self-reporting, self-identifying can be very helpful, because you can make sure that you're going to perform your best in the interview process. If you know that they have a program, by self-identifying, you open yourself up to the opportunity of things that will help you excel in an interview.
There any other questions? Okay, we have one more question.
I heard a lot of nice stories of success from your companies today. I wanted to ask if any thought has been given of how this can be replicated to other companies, or how this can be, more broadly, or what does a person do that is in a different company that doesn't have these programs and wants to get started with this program? I mean, generally, how do we replicate this success model? What are your thoughts on that?
Call EY, sorry.
Or Zavicon.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would say, since programs have to be tailor-made to your company and your company's needs, and even regionally, a company in California would have different needs than a company in North Carolina. Reach out to other companies, because I think that this is one of those things that we can really only do with open communication between companies, being able to reach out to EY and say, how did you guys handle this? Or reach out to Stanford or us at UB and kind of take the lessons that you can learn from everybody to build a program that fits your company.
Just all the plus ones. And just to say, we started off, Rebecca, you said we're sharing success stories, we're sharing best practices. And I think it's important to not reinvent the wheel. If you're wanting to start this at your company, do reach out to partners, exactly as Lauren and Jamell just described. Do reach out to experts who've tackled the problems, but you don't have to go it alone or build it from scratch. There are models you can leverage, best practices you can learn from.
Yeah, and Rebecca and team, and for the gentleman who asked the question, I'd be remiss if I didn't call out, but we've provided that guidance and that support for years. We were literally hundreds of conversations, 4 of which this week, around those considerations for success. There's no secret, and those that are doing it right, don't hold it as intellectual property, because if we can create 1 or 2 organizations that are creating 300, or 3 or 4 or 500 opportunities, think about the opportunity that would be presented to the community if we have 50 or 100 organizations doing that. And I'll call out as a contribution to that mission, our partnership with the Center for Neurodiversity, Employment, and Innovation at UConn. That organization, led by Judy Riley, really focuses on employer ed, and not to compete with my partners on the call, but I want to call out there's incredible work that's happening there in partnership, leveraging the Wells Fargo model, being academically bound and then delivered through facilitation to everything from large corporations down to kind of the smaller personal businesses or small businesses. So there's a lot of help out there. All you have to do is ask, and you'll have an overwhelming response.
Stephen, I love that. And Rebecca, if I can just share one additional piece, if you can also make sure that everyone in the room has the link for Disability In, because we do have the playbook that is on the Neurodiversity at Work Employer Roundtable, and there is a lot of information that's there that shows different models. And to Stephen's point, this is not something that is just only intellectual property for one, but it is something that's more collaborative than not. So that's a good source of information for a lot of foundation as well.
And, as Lauren said earlier, there's a large unemployment rate. There's a huge unemployment rate. There's a big underemployment rate. So we all have to work together to solve this problem. And that's why people in this space are so collaborative, because we have a mission. And we also have a mission. They have a mission for their own companies to make them better for everyone. So with that, I really want to thank you guys. You know how much I respect you and just put you all up on pedestals for the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for your willingness to come and join this panel. This means so much to me and to the individuals that are in this room. And I just hope you have a wonderful rest of your Friday and a lovely, lovely weekend. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Bye all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Great weekend. Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.